All right, everyone, welcome back to the Zydeco Coaches Show. Been a hot minute since we've been back here. So thanks for tuning in on YouTube and thanks for being here in person. Want to do a special thank you to everybody who reached out to me personally for all the thoughts and prayers for my family as we're going through a bit of a tough time right now. So wanted to just get that out of the way real quick. Thank you guys very much for reaching out and thinking about us. So. Um, Thank you to Queen Casino 1717 Restaurant for having us here as per usual. Today, I'm going to have Everett Thompson on like we normally do. And then to my right, you can see number 23, Jackson Bond is in the building today. So, Jackson, thanks for being on, buddy.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. You're sporting a nice zipper
Yeah.
right here. What go over just kind of exactly how that happened.
Well, I mean, it happened pretty fast. I don't know exactly how it occurred, but I do know I was in a corner battle with a couple other guys, and I remember just getting shoved from behind, and at that exact moment, just kind of happened. The timing didn't really land in my favor, and the skate came up, and I kind of just went
Oh,
right into the skate. So ended up getting 15 total stitches, 5 inside and 10 on the outside, and
yeah.
right in the middle of my forehead. So
Well, at least it's not in the shape of a big L or
y-
anything right there.
yeah,
So,
no, it's
yeah.
my initial. So if you ever forget my name, just look at my face.
There you go. Have you ever had stitches like that before, or?
I've had a few surgeries in my time, so I've had some scars from that. And last year, while playing with Mississippi, I blocked a shot in the face
Oh,
against the Zydeco actually, and had to get 8 stitches on the jaw. But otherwise, I've never really had any facial issues. So
and
this is
that
my
was eight
first.
zero,
Yeah,
AD?
no, 8.
Oh,
Sorry,
eight.
8.
I,
Yeah,
I thought I heard
just
AD, and I was
8
like, goodness
small ones,
gracious.
but
Yeah,
nothing quite like this. This was a little more scary.
yeah, absolutely. Well, especially because we're getting a little close to the eyes there.
Yes,
So,
yeah.
cool. Well, as we normally do, we're gonna start from the very beginning. You're born and raised out in Minnesota, state of hockey.
Yep.
Was hockey pretty much in your blood since the very beginning, or how'd that work?
Yes. My dad was a hockey player. He's a hockey coach, so it's been in the family. But I actually, for whatever reason, for the first couple years, he tried to get me into hockey. I didn't really take to it, and it wasn't until I was probably 6, 7, which in Minnesota is late. But I remember it was like mid-season, and I turned to my dad and I was like, I think I want to play hockey. And he's like, well, last time we took you went off the ice crying and
Yeah.
screaming. So, but I was like, not this time. And I joined a team mid-season and have been playing ever since.
Yeah. So where did you start playing when you were growing up?
Well, I grew up in White Bear Lake, which is like a suburb of St. Paul, just right outside the city there. So I played youth hockey in White Bear basically my whole childhood. And then we ended up moving closer to the city to a different community, and I played high school hockey for Roseville, um, just St. Paul school. And after that, then I jumped into, the AAA route. I kind of took an unconventional route for a Minnesota player. Most people do from Minnesota will come play, their whole high school career, go
Yeah.
into junior in college if that's their end goal. But my school is a little different. Our head coach ended up retiring, the guy who kind of recruited me there, and um, I had an opportunity to go play AAA and play 80 games rather than 25, and on a much better program than where I was playing at the
Hmm.
time. So I decided to take that route.
Nice. All right. Well, since you had started a little later, I mean, that's a pretty quick trajectory going from starting at 7, 8 years old, then high school and AAA, you
Yeah.
know. Have you always kind of been one of the smaller guys on the ice? Now you're not like super short by any means,
Yeah.
but as far as hockey standards go, you're on the smaller side.
Well, I definitely was when I was younger. I was definitely the smallest guy out there
Yeah.
early in my career, but I think I think every team has a guy in the relative size range of me. Usually there's one or two. But I've never really looked at it that way.
Hmm.
I don't look across the bench there and look at what other guys are size wise. I try to look at, what they're bringing to the table, what they do on the ice. And so for me, it doesn't really register, but I think there's a few guys in the league that are smaller than me, so I
Hmm.
can proudly say I don't think I'm the shortest guy in the
Right.
league.
There
So
you go. That's a win.
that's all that I care about.
Yeah. Well, and since the entrance of guys like Patrick Kane, Johnny Gaudreau, there's certainly a lot more opportunity out there for hockey players who are of shorter stature. So, how did your game change as you grew up and guys were kind of towering over you a little bit?
Yeah, well, I mean, when you're smaller, you got to be a hard target to hit. So I think developing my skating skills and my speed has always been a huge part of my game, and to make sure that I can compete at the highest levels
Yeah.
possible and against bigger competition. So yeah, obviously, like you said, Patrick Kane, Johnny Gaudreau, two huge idols of mine. I mean, Johnny Gaudreau, rest in peace to him, and condolences to his family with that tragedy. But he was my idol. I mean, watching him play college and just seeing what
Yeah.
he was able to do in the NHL has been a huge inspiration to me. And we're not too far off in age, so knowing that there's guys out there like that, and I think that that's the direction that the game is moving. I think the bigger, goonier style game
Yeah.
is slowly kind of working its way out, and as you see, like guys now that are coming into the league. Celebrini and some of those other guys are not very big guys,
Yeah.
5'9", 5'10" guys,
Yeah.
and they're able to do incredible things. Connor Bedard,
Yeah.
another guy. So I just think that's the direction of the game, and sometimes I think I was a few years too early. So
You just missed the
just
cut,
missed the
honestly.
window.
Yeah. Um, growing up, did you have any? You said Gaudreau's your favorite player, but do you have a favorite team or anything like that growing up? Was it the Wild?
Well, I'm obviously a Wild fan.
Uh,
I'm going to be a homer, but the New York Rangers has a lot of ties to my family, so I've been a Ranger fan for the
there you
majority of
go.
my life. I like to see them be successful. If I had to pick a team from the East, it would be the
Hmm.
Rangers, but at the end of the day, as I've gotten older, I've become more and more of a homer, and I like to root for the Wild as well. So
Even though a championship is nowhere in sight.
not well this year. Who knows? I mean, we're 11-3 right now, is second in the West. I mean, I like what they're doing, and to be able to do that on the salary cap that they have is pretty special. So I
Yeah.
mean, I'm hoping this year we make a good run at it.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
you go. Um, so coming back to your career, I took a look at your Leap prospects page, and you kind of were just all over the board as far as jumping state to state to state. I've got Minnesota to Washington State, and then Nebraska to Arizona to New York, and then going back to Minnesota, and then up to Saskatchewan,
Yeah.
all in the span of 3 years. So, you know, first and foremost, what are some of the favorite places that you were at in
Yeah.
that time span?
Well, I really enjoyed my time in Nebraska. I'd say that was probably my favorite team that I played for growing up and throughout my career, pre, college and professionally, of course. But I actually never got to play in Washington State. That just kind of happened to work out for a weekend. I was playing in the Minnesota Elite League, which is like a high school league for the top 100 players or whatever, and um, they had called my coach of that team saying like we got a showcase here in Minnesota and we need a couple players who would be willing to play for a weekend. So I just joined them for a weekend and they actually really liked me and wanted me to stick with them, and that's kind of what opened the door to the AAA that I never really thought I'd ever
Gotcha.
do.
Okay.
And month or two later I ended up signing, or not signing, but joining Omaha AAA in Nebraska and
Mm.
having a great season there. I mean, I ended up breaking my shoulder or my arm and tearing my shoulder in December, so that put an end to that season. And I had every intention of going back there, but good opportunity in Arizona. Well, what I thought would have been a good opportunity opened up, and like as you mentioned, I bounced around a little bit. Sometimes that can work against you a little bit. You can get
Hmm.
labeled like a suitcase or whatever, but I think when you're young and you're trying to find a team where they value you and that you fit in well with not just the team but the coach and the system, that's important because at that time you're just trying to move on and
Hmm.
and and get a college opportunity. So in those 3 years, it was really just me trying to figure out where I was best utilized and where I would get the most
Yeah.
opportunity. And so that kind of is why you might see a few teams on there in that short span. But I mean, I'm grateful every place that I played, I took things away from and gained experience and friends, and now I've got friends all over the country, all over North
Yeah.
America. So it's a good
And you were
experience.
on the younger side when you started that that whole cross country road trip,
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
You were what, 16 years old at the very start?
Yep, 16.
So was that a little difficult, kind of being on the younger side, being away from home and family and things like that at a younger age, or did it kind of prepare you more for, what was coming up next?
It definitely does prepare you for the long term, but when you're first doing it, there's a little bit of a shell shock. I mean, at first you're like excited, you're like, oh, there's no rules, no parents, no
Yeah.
authority, you're fired up over that. But as you start to settle in, you kind of miss a lot of that stuff. But I think the maturity and the growth that I went through in those 3 years bouncing around and experiencing new cultures and new people and new experiences all at a young age really helped to prepare me for, now being professional, being 18 hours, 1,000 miles from home
Mm.
and elongated time periods. The junior season is 5, 6 months, but
Yeah.
this pro season can be 7 months
Yeah.
if we make it all the way. So I think that there's positives and negatives to take away from both sides, but yeah, it was definitely not something that I think a lot of people expected or are used to, especially coming from Minnesota when there's so much hockey there. They're
Yeah.
like, why would you ever leave?
Hmm.
But it was just the right decision for me, and I'm super grateful for my journey.
Nice. Um, Kind of sticking on that thought process, how prepared did you feel making that jump to juniors and the juniors lifestyle because of the fact that you had traveled and been away from family and things like that at a younger age?
Yeah. Well, obviously, when I was out in Arizona, I was playing U18 AAA, and we were a struggling team, and I just didn't feel, I wasn't feeling like myself there. I just felt not necessarily like homesick or lonely, but I just felt like there was better opportunities elsewhere where I could have been used more and find more success. And I mean, obviously, like I think when it comes to moving up, because when you're going through junior and youth hockey, it's all about moving up and finding the
Yeah.
next level and working towards that college scholarship. Um, Being on a winning team is always the best route for that. And so on a team that was struggling in Arizona, I got a call from a family friend, saying they had some injuries and some guys that were not coming back, and they thought that I'd be ready to make that jump to junior
Yeah.
in New York, and I, jumped at that and really grateful for that. That was really, really good experience to play with adults too. Like I was 17, not even 17 at the time, turning 17 and jumping into um, my first year of junior
Yeah.
really early,
21-year-old
playing,
guys.
yeah,
Yeah.
playing with men, playing with people who've been living independently on their own
Yeah.
without their parents. You learn a lot, you grow a lot, and yeah, I think, like you said before, like all that traveling and all that stuff prepared me for that transition. I think game wise, like when it comes to the on ice stuff, I think the game is the same.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it gets a little faster, it gets a little tougher. You got to be able to make decisions quicker, but I think the the transition was very easy when I played for such high demanding AAA teams that treated it like a junior
Yeah.
program. So it seemed pretty seamless to me, and I was really eager to take the next step.
Nice. Um, so yeah, made the jump to juniors 2014. Your first full season of juniors was with Battleford,
Yep.
North Stars up in Saskatchewan. Were you always going to be looking up in Canada for juniors, or was that just kind of the best option that came at that time?
Well, this is kind of a funny story, but I tendered with the Minnesota Wilderness in the NA,
Mhm.
and I went to their camp, and it was held in Chicago in a rink that was going bankrupt. That the head coach wasn't even there. It just I just got a really bad feeling from being in that camp and that experience, and so I decided to not report, and I took a offer to go to Canada, and that team went on to win the Robertson Cup that year in the NA. So hindsight being 2020, I probably should have given it another chance.
Right.
But no, I mean the thing, the hardest part about that going to Canada was, they love their Canadian boys, and as an American, they obviously, I wouldn't say there's bias or favoritism, but you really have to prove your stripes
Yeah.
and earn it. And I think that that gave me an edge in my work ethic and my desire to, improve and compete and earn everything. Like I don't want anything to be handed to me. So
Yeah.
it taught me some good valuable lessons, and they play the game the right way up there, and that's a very physical and tough league to play in, the SJ. So I think that added an edge to my game as a smaller guy. You got to be tough, you got to be willing to take some punishment, as you can see on my face. So I didn't mind it, and I think it in the long run, like I said, in the long run, it really benefited my game.
Yeah,
So.
good. Well, 2016 to 2019 seemed like there was a pretty big gap there as far as elite prospects is concerned. So, what was going on for you in that time span, those 3 years?
Yeah, so I ended up the my second year of junior, which would have been my last year. I was on a 5-on-3 and I blocked a shot, and I got stuck out there for like 20, 30 seconds and ended up breaking my leg into 6 pieces.
Oh my God.
So hobbling around on the broken leg, I ended up getting a spiral break, and that took me out
Oh,
of competition for 9 months. So by the time I was even walking normal, the next season of juniors was starting. I had aged out. All my college opportunities kind of had dried up because most people weren't sure if I would ever be able to
right.
play again. And so I just went into the workforce. I started coaching hockey, staying involved in the game, but I just, at the time, I was fully convinced that my playing career was over. And I started a business, a hockey company with my dad, and we were running programs. And I had a college and junior program that I had some buddies training in,
Mhm.
some friends of mine, guys that I had played with growing up, and they all kind of just told me, they're like, man, you still really can play. They're like, you still got the talent, the skill, and the speed, and if you ever consider wanting to come back, if that's something that you're, thinking you want to do, we can talk to our coach. And they were playing at Hamlin at the time,
Mhm.
and as the summer went on, I got to like August. I started skating in full gear with them during those sessions, and I just thought, you know what? I I'm never gonna be 23 again, so if it's any time to try and make a
Yeah.
comeback, it's now. Anytime if I wait any longer, it's probably not gonna happen. So I just took a leap of faith and ended up walking on at Hamlin. Coach gave me an opportunity, and I've been running with it. So yeah, it was a weird time. There was obviously some personal issues going on there too. That
Yeah.
whole identity crisis as
Yeah.
athletes, when we dedicate our whole lives to something and then it's taken out from us, from under us. So that whole time I was a lot of soul searching, trying to figure out who I was away from the game and whatnot. And obviously when that opportunity got presented to me to return to the game, I couldn't pass it up.
Yeah.
So
Kind of a gift to be
yeah,
able to have
a little
that.
comeback story.
Yeah. Well, you spent 3 years playing college hockey, two of them at Hamlin, and then the other one at St. Thomas. I think that was just a COVID year, right? The St.
Yeah.
Thomas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I did transfer to St. Thomas. A lot of it was financial reasons. I got a better offer there,
Yeah.
and obviously, like my freshman year at Hamlin, I had a lot of success.
Hmm.
And so that being St. Thomas being a better school that was offering better program, better athletic program, better educational school,
Hmm.
and cheaper, I thought I had to take that opportunity. And then during that year, they announced their move to Division One, and they ended up, gassing the whole roster.
Yeah.
And then I was kind of stuck thinking, well, do I go to a third school or in 3 years and go back to kind of like how I was in junior? And I'm like, I don't really want to do that. I had a lot of success at Hamlin, and I'm
Hmm.
still really close with a lot of the guys there. They understood why I had to leave. I mean, I just really couldn't afford it, but I was a good student in college, so reapplying, I got a better offer
Nice.
to go back there, and I got to keep all my credits. So it was really just something that worked out well to return to
Yeah.
Hamlin. So I went Hamlin, St. Thomas, and then
Yeah.
back to Hamlin there.
Good. But and you had a very good college career. You spent just the 3 years playing college hockey. Did you think about going back for a fourth, or were you just kind of going to school the whole way through?
Well, the plan was always to do 4 years straight through. And this is no disrespect to Hamlin. It's a great institution, and I still have a lot of friends that are still currently playing there, but we were a struggling program, and
Hmm.
being the fact that I started college late, I was 23-year-old freshman, you know, just trying to make, and I never had any pro aspirations at the time. Just the fact that I was playing college hockey was a gift in
Hmm.
itself. But when the opportunities after my junior year, some phone calls were made to me, and thought, well, if there's an opportunity to go pro, I'd like to do it
Yeah.
while I'm still young. I can go back and finish my last year of school, but there's not many 27, 28-year-old pro rookies.
Right.
So I really thought I had to take the opportunity. So I signed in Pensacola after my junior year and tried to go there. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for
Hmm.
me. Um, I still have a great relationship with Rod, who was the coach at the time, but that's really how that happened. I thought I could, make that jump to the FB from after my junior year, and
Hmm.
I am not sure whether or not. I mean, I plan on going back and finishing school at some point, but I do think I'm going to be a fireman. So when I retire from hockey, that's kind of my ultimate goal. But
There you go.
yeah, but no, like I said, there was no pro aspiration until I think my junior year, and then I said, well, if that's an opportunity, there's a possibility of that.
Yeah.
I'd like to at least have a 2 to 3, 4 year career doing that, and I don't want to be starting that at 27,
Hmm.
28 years old. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was really just a health and age
Yeah.
age thing for me.
Nice. Well, you got into the FPHL with the Watertown Wolves. Then I think halfway through that season, you moved on to Mississippi. 22 points in 53 games in your rookie year. Pretty decent first season. What was your first pro year like?
My first pro year, it was a little tough one. I had a higher expect. I mean, I always have high expectations for myself. I had higher expectations for my initial rookie season, but I played on two pretty bad teams, and we really struggled to win games, and
Hmm.
sometimes that can affect your personal individual stats. But
Hmm.
I'm more of a team person, so for me, I don't really look at what I'm able to do. I really like to look at what the teams I'm on are doing, and as a whole, though, that first year was a struggle because both teams just struggled to win games consistently, and
Yeah.
and then as a result, I struggled to put up points consistently,
Hmm.
and so it was a battle, and but I think out of that grind and that battle, I learned a lot about the pro game and that it's a long, long season.
Hmm.
And I think I really came on strong late that year. I had a real slow start and came on strong, and I took a lot of good away from that, a lot of positive away from that, and I learned to put my nose to the grindstone
Yeah.
way more than I had in any other part of my career, and you know, like I said, I'm grateful for that first year. It was really tough, losing a lot of games in a row, but that's where you really find whether or not this is what you want to do with your
Yeah.
life and whether hockey is for you or not. A lot of people would pack it in, and I dug my heels in. So
Yeah. Well, you ended up breaking out with Mississippi that next year, 47 points in 53 games. You also had 111 penalty minutes in those 53 games. I would like to point out 45 of those came against the Zydeco, so you really made a name for yourself here in Baton
yeah,
Rouge. But yeah, what kind of led to, the getting getting rent in the sin bin?
yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't really. I mean, you guys watch the games. The FBHL reffing can be a little questionable, so I'll put most of the blame on that. But um, I don't know. I play with an edge and a chip to my game, and I don't really take any crap out there. So,
Yeah.
I think a lot of that was because I was able to produce a lot against, like for example, you brought up the PIMs that I got against us last year, and I think that was just for the fact that I was, effective on the ice and, guys would target me and I wouldn't take any crap. So I spent some time in the box, but that's just
Mhm.
my opportunity to calm down, relax a little
There
bit,
you go.
breathe and reset.
Take a
So
chill pill.
yeah, take a
Yeah.
chill pill, but
Well, yeah, talk about effective. 7 goals, 9 assists, 16 points against the Zydeco. Is it kind of weird being on the opposite side now, especially since we played Mississippi so often?
no, it's an absolute blessing. Even last year I loved coming to Baton Rouge to play. I feed off the energy of the crowd, whether
Yeah.
it's I'm the one they're booing or they're cheering for.
Yeah.
So to be on the other side of it this year has been an absolute treat, and I'm super happy to be down here. Last year we came in a lot, and like you said, I was probably public enemy number one on the Mississippi roster. I wasn't the biggest fan favorite here, but I think that a lot of that has turned into positive
Yeah.
this year, and I'm really happy about it.
So this year now, you've pretty much been one of the guys that the team looks to, not just for point production, but generating chances, getting the energy going a little bit. Um, up until recently, you're a little bit snake bitten as far
Yeah.
as goals are concerned. So, how do you keep from getting frustrated in that kind of a situation, or
Well,
did you?
I don't think you can ever keep from getting frustrated. You know, when you're brought in to do a job and you're not being effective in that, it's frustrating because you feel like you're letting your team down. And you're letting yourself down and your coach and all those different things. But at the end of the day, we were winning hockey games, so I can't make it about myself. The team was finding ways to win.
Mhm.
We were beating good teams, and I was just glad to be a part of all that. And I think when it comes to, you know, how to not stay frustrated, I mean, the chances were there, and so I think in the game of hockey, you know, everything kind of works itself out in the end. And so as long as the chances are still there, I know that I'm right there knocking on the doorstep.
Yeah.
That's kind of one of the things that I kept telling myself to keep myself from getting too frustrated or being too hard on myself. You know, every game I'm having a couple shots, a couple really good grade A's, and eventually they're going to drop. And once that first one happens, it's like,
Mhm.
okay, monkey's off the back now, and we can kind of keep it rolling. So I'm hoping that now that I got my first two last weekend, that moving forward they'll be
Yeah.
coming more consistently, and those chances that I've been getting start converting on a more consistent
Falling a little
basis.
more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I love it. All right. Well, last question, then we'll let you go. You're talking about how, your first couple of seasons it was tough to string a couple wins together. Now you're on a team where it looks like that's exactly the trend that's
Yeah.
gonna be going. So, what are some of the things that you're most looking forward to as the season progresses?
Well, I just think that well, one, I hope the wins keep coming. I mean, there's nothing better than being on a winning team.
Hmm.
You know, we're in this, we have that competitive nature. We're in this thing to win hockey games, to win championships. If that's not your motivation, then you're in the wrong career and you're
Yeah.
in the wrong sport. So first and foremost, I'm looking forward to, you know, developing deeper chemistry with my teammates, both on and off the ice. I think those two things go hand in hand. And eventually hoisting that trophy at the end of the year. I think we have the right group here. We have the right guy at the helm. I think we're moving in a really really positive direction. And I think if we can start to convert on some of those better teams, you know, the top end of the league, I don't see why there's no reason why we aren't hanging a banner here next
Yeah.
fall. So,
Who you passing the cup to when you raise it?
oof. Well, it depends on where I go in the lineup, I
And
guess.
let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. All right, Jackson Bond, everybody, thanks for showing up,
Yeah.
buddy. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to be right back with Everett Thompson right after this.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Wall-to-wall TVs mean you'll see every touchdown in HD. Place your bets and feel the thrill of every play with our DraftKings Sportsbook. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
Does he think he's better than us? We'll find out. Think you're better than us with that fancy stick work, huh?
Buddy, watch this.
Yeah, you got good hands. But watch this. Let's get out of here, MJ.
Hey, I'm Dr. Donald. Scott, come on in, Scott. Thanks.
Scott, you ready? All right, you can have a seat right here.
All right, Scott. We're going to get you all fixed up today, okay?
A few moments later.
All right, Scott. Good as new.
Thank you, Dr. Donald.
You're welcome. Welcome to Advanced Dental Care, official dentist of the Zydeco hockey team. Whether you're a hockey player or not, we can give you the perfect smile.
Dawn Seafood, our weekend brunch isn't just a meal. It's the moment you've been waiting for all week. Begin your legendary weekend with brunch favorites like our shrimp and grits, crab cake benedict, and of course, bottomless mimosas. Let's be honest, the party doesn't start until Dawn Seafood hits the table. From our team at Dawn Seafood, we want to thank you for the past 90 years and cheers to many more together.
Run for Chirac, but he can't bury. Chirac grabs it back, curls away from his check, in behind the net, picks it up on his stick, and he gets the Michigan! Scott Chirac, a highlight reel goal!
Welcome back, everybody, to the Queen Casino out here in Baton Rouge, 1717 Restaurant. Andy Poetzinger alongside Everett Thompson, our head coach. ET, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. It's been a couple weeks since our last show, so we got a lot to catch up on for sure. Just talked to Jackson Bond for a little bit. Curious just to kind of see, over the off season, you saw him last year quite a few times, but what were some of the things that kind of piqued your interest about him and, made you want to reach out?
Oh, you like speed. Anytime you can get players that can, have that type of speed to add to your lineup is always going to help. Scored a couple goals on us last year too, so you don't forget those types of moments, right? So
yeah, somebody to stir the pot a little bit too.
yeah, it happens.
All right, so let's take it back 2 weeks to our series against Columbus. Obviously not the results that we wanted at the end of the day. But what were some of the takeaways that you had from that weekend?
It was a good measuring stick weekend for us. I thought we competed well against a team that is up in the standings every single year. So it was a good test. And like you said, we didn't necessarily get the results we wanted, but at the same time, I think we're right there. So it was good to see what we have.
It seemed to be more of a chess match, game one, more than anything. Was it more that both teams were just trying to feel each other out a little bit, or, are both just so solid structurally that life was just difficult for everybody involved?
No, probably a bit of both. I think when you get two teams that play with structure like that, you're going to find some pushback given back and forth between both of them. We both like to play with the puck, so there's only one of them, so creates a little, like you just said, a chess match. So it was different. I think not to move too forward here, but into game two, I thought we changed a few things and we're a little bit more aggressive. And I think it kind of, we get one goal early there. I thought we could have deserved one or two there, and changes how things go. But it's a game of hockey sometimes.
Well, yeah, it took a while, but halfway through the third, guys finally found a way to break through that Columbus wall. I think it was something like 9 shutout periods or something in a row for them. But leading up to that point, what was the vibe on the bench like?
I mean, we were right there. I don't think anyone questioned anything going on. I think we were right in the fight there. A puck bounces a different way for us, and the result's different. It's just one of those one-goal hockey games just go that way. So I thought overall, you said vibe on the bench. I thought it was good. We had a positive weekend in general. I mean, obviously we didn't win the games, but the general takeaway was it's a good measuring stick for us to see where we're at. And one goal game against top teams is always it could have gone either way.
Yeah, Columbus came away with the 2-1 victory in that game. What were some of the things that you were happiest about? What were some of the things that you really wanted to change for that next game?
I thought we sat back a little bit in the first game, which was our game plan. But like when you're trying to see what you're going against, one of those teams, you got to stick to your guns. And night one we sat back, and night two we kind of threw a little bit more at them.
Yeah, totally different feel in game two from the very beginning. It seemed like the boys were unafraid to be on the offensive. I think unafraid might not be the right word, but basically they pushed the limits from where they were the night before. What was the message pregame?
Just be aggressive. I think that playing them game one to a 2-1 game gave us a little bit of confidence just because, going into the game, you heard about how they hadn't been scored on and da 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 da. So I think it was one of those things where once you kind of see it in person, it's a little different. So I don't think it was as scary for everyone
Mhm.
going into day two. I think, like we said, we had some confidence from game one there. I think at the end of game one, we really started to push. Just didn't get the bounces. In game two, the same thing right away. We pushed right away, just didn't get a bounce. So, it's one of those things where generally you don't necessarily need to be playing your best hockey in November, so it's fine. It's one of those things where we are we used it as a good measuring contest, and we're right there against them. I think the first period against the second game, we started right off where we left off in game one,
Mhm.
and just didn't get puck luck at the end of the day, and that's a big part of the game sometimes.
Yeah, and things really did open up after the first period. We saw 3 goals, 2 fights in the second. Was that more kind of the hockey you were expecting to see, or was it more of the chess match that you were kind of expecting to see in that weekend?
I think both games were a chess match. I just think it was the second game when we come out in a more aggressive format. It's just one of those
Hmm.
things where it's going to press teams a little bit differently, and I don't think they had really been pressed yet. I think everyone to date just kind of sat back against them, and we were probably one of the first teams to really press them and give them a different look. So
Yeah. Rio Namiki and Ian McDonald both dropped the gloves in that second period. At this point, it's not out of the ordinary for Rio to drop the gloves, but Ian had his very first professional fight, and it was a real good one. What was the reaction from the bench taking a look at that fight?
everyone kind of knows going into it that he's a younger guy stepping into his first fight. So we know he's nervous, but at the same time, once you get it out of the way, it just happens, part of the game.
Yeah. There was a 2 minute span there in the third period where Columbus was able to find ways to get 2 goals. Gave them a 4-1 lead. Typically against Columbus, that spells doom, but this team does not back down at all. If anything, the heat got turned up at least a little bit. Talk about just the resiliency from this club and what it means to be able to put that up against a top team like Columbus.
I think it's a bit of both things. I think it's good to have the resilience. I think it also shown a bit of signs of things that we continuously do. We've kind of struggled in that first 10-minute segment of third periods thus far, so it's definitely something we're working on continuously. It's for whatever reason it is, that's just kind of our tough part of our game right now, and
Hmm.
it's been one of those things where it's a pattern of the last couple of weeks. So trying to work on it, obviously. It's just one of those things where until we kind of figure out that puzzle piece, it's kind of a part of our game we're gonna have to just work on
Yeah.
continuously to get through because yet again we took 2 to 3 minutes off there in the beginning of the third and kind of like you said they scored 2 goals quick and we knew going into the weekend that Columbus is one of those teams that can strike quick and
Yeah.
often in short bursts especially. So they kind of in a sense they did kind of bury us there. Put us in a hole that we really couldn't dig out of. We showed resilience, which is great. It's just it's one of those things we got to stop putting ourselves in these positions because we're playing such good hockey, and then all of a sudden, for 2 minutes we just disappear from what we're supposed to be doing, and then the puck luck seems to happen generally against us at the moment, and that's okay. I think it's one of those things where once we do figure out these segments that we're going through, it'll be one of those things we not only get through, but then we'll get some benefits of some puck luck and things like that. So
Hmm.
it's just something we haven't gotten any benefit from really yet. Maybe one or two things have gone our way in a luck sense, but I mean, other than that, we've really had to fight tooth and nail for everything we've gotten so far, which is kind of the group we had coming in. We knew, so you know, um, not to say that we kind of knew where we were now and we know where we are, but I think we kind of have an idea of where we got to go now, which is another big piece of the puzzle. So.
I asked you at the last coaches show what you wanted to learn from your team playing against Columbus. What were some of the things that you did kind of learn about this club?
Like you said, we do have the resilience factor. I kind of knew that going into it. We've
Mm.
showed signs of that before. I think we kind of surprised ourselves. I think we're a lot better than we give ourselves credit, or anyone else is giving us credit, which is fine. You don't need credit in November. It's a
Yeah.
long season here. Um, but I think at the same time, like we surprised ourselves a little with how well we can compete with some of these better teams, and I think it's one of those things that as you learn to win, you're gonna have to go through these learning periods of how do you take on these teams that are, they're going to be in the playoffs. They're one of those teams that's going to be there. They've always been in that conversation.
Mhm.
They win hockey games. They're used to winning games, where we're still learning how to win games. So that's just the difference, and we'll get there. It's just you know, having weekends like that are one of the things you're going to go through. Having tight two one goal games in a row is, something you have to go through to eventually get on the other side of it.
Yeah. Well, moving on to this week, meet up with the Seawolves for the fifth and sixth time in the first 11 games of the season. We won't see them again until February, but what kind of rivalry is starting to kind of percolate there?
I mean, it's what we knew it was going to be. You get a team in close proximity. The fan bases are right in each other's faces
Hmm.
a lot, especially early on here, and the hockey itself is right in your face too. So I mean, you get two teams that play a little differently, and it's going to be a fight like that. So it's one of those things where it's a fun rivalry to be a part of.
It was a good outburst in game one from the guys, a 7-1 victory, 4-point performance from Elijah Wilson, 2 from Jackson Bond, 3 assists from Scott Chirac. So was that kind of reminiscent of that 10-1 victory for you guys on opening night, or was this, kind of we've learned our lesson from that?
I think we learned our lesson from that game. I think this was a little different. We played a lot more to our style the whole time. We were able to work on a few things in game that's going to benefit us throughout the year too. So I mean, yeah, we just found a way to keep scoring goals, which is great. But it's one of those things where when you play teams like that, sometimes you can open it up on them, and some nights is going to be like the next day where it's a little bit closer. So
Yeah.
we have that ability to do that on teams. Obviously, it's not going to happen every night. You wish it would, but it's just one of those things where we're going to learn how to. When you're on a successful team, you're on one of these teams that's bordering, the top or echelon of the league. You're going to have nights where you find success.
Yeah, and well, like you said, that game 2 against Mississippi, they kind of turned the tables a little bit. They outshot us 43-21 in that game, and Bailey Stevens got his first start in, I think it was almost a month. He played phenomenal. How would you talk about his performance?
Yeah, I mean, goaltending is something we definitely don't have to worry about at the moment.
Yeah.
They're both steady Eddie right now. We knew what we had in Bailey. We just had some, it was one of those things where with the schedule we had, it just to ride the hot goalie.
Oh yeah.
Bailey is finding his way back into the lineup a little bit more here. It's not like we're gonna not see him this year. It's just, we got two good goalies this year. It's one of
Yeah.
those things where they're gonna slug it out, and that's the benefit for us is we're gonna have, every night hopefully have consistently two goalies that are really hungry and want to play and know how the net works. That it's one of those things where when someone gets hot, we're gonna ride them. Right now we're benefiting from two good guys that are
Yeah.
playing well. So
That's a great problem to have, absolutely. Over the course of the season, we've talked a lot about, this team learning lessons as they go on. It's a younger team. Last time the Zydeco blew out Mississippi, like I said, came back and had a real tough time that next game, lost in regulation, dropped 3 points. Pulled out the win in regulation this time. So would you say that this team is starting to kind of figure out how to win hockey games, even if it's, they might not have everything in the tank, they're still figuring out ways to win?
I mean, the results are the results. So yes, we are figuring out how to win games. It's just a consistent basis of we've got to figure out that third period, kind of,
Mhm.
I'm glad that we're winning games. We're finding ways to win it. That's a sign of a good team. It's just one of those things where we're still very small sample size, in my opinion, here. We are 11 games in, but at the same time, we haven't really been tested on the road yet. We got a lot of opponents that we have to see. So it's great to get the points when we can get them, right? You always want to get the points, especially throughout this marathon of a season. It's one of those things where if you can consistently find ways to continuously get points, you'll find yourself in the right spot at the end of the year. It's you just can't have segments of droughts.
Yeah.
And consistency is where you can avoid those. So it's just finding ways to get out of that right now, like I said, we're in a consistent pattern of we have a 10-minute stretch where we've really got to solve to complete our 60-minute. And I think when we play a full 60, it's really hard to play against us.
Yeah.
We've got a really complete roster. It's a lot deeper than a lot of teams think. We don't rely on just one line for anything, so it's one of those things that is a benefit to us. But at the same time, as a team, we have a little issue we're figuring out. So you're going to go through things throughout the year. We have some strengths right now as well that are really good, but you also have to be critical about yourself when it comes to these things. Like we talked about, the points do come and go quickly. So when we can get all 6 and we need to get all 6, that's great. But
Yeah.
like we're going into a weekend against a team yet again that's consistently in the playoff picture. I don't think they've ever missed playoffs to my knowledge. So I mean, this is another good test for us this weekend.
Yeah. Well, and kind of like you said, getting 6 out of 6 points is important. We've got the games coming up this weekend against Port Huron, but also looking a little further than that, we've got kind of a gauntlet to run through Thanksgiving week, 4 games in 5 days. There's a lot of points on the table there. That's 12 points in that Thanksgiving week and, another 6 here. How important are these points, against Mississippi and against Port Huron, seeing that we're going to be hitting pretty much a 25%, of the season being completed mark right around the corner?
Yeah, I mean, it's where you finally can get the idea of where the playoff picture can land. We're going to have a few games ahead of teams, so it'll be really important for us to kind of make sure that these points matter, especially while we're playing a lot more games than some teams. They'll catch up eventually. So, like, you look at some of the standings right now, yeah, Columbus is 3rd, but at the same time, they've only lost like 1 or 2 games in regulation.
Yeah.
They've only played a few games, really. So, we're, like you said, we'll be a quarter of the way done here soon. So, you're happy with the evaluation where we're at right now. And then, like you said, we have a stretch of 6 games in 10 days. That's going to be a battle. We travel a decent amount for the first time. So that'll be a good test for us to see where we're at. But I always like to correlate it back to this is how playoffs are going to be. If we play in that time of year, if you're in May and you're in April, you're going to be, 1 week, you're going to find out here, we got to go here. We're playing these guys. You got 2 games or 3 games to get it done. And then after that 3-game segment is done, you'll find out in a day or 2 after that where you're going next, and you don't have control over it. It can be maybe a 6-hour drive. It can be a 13-hour drive. The way these divisions work, it's very spread out. So this stretch of games is good for us. It's one of those things where we need to see this because it's what it's going to be at the end of the year. If you want to get to that end of the marathon, you have to have some of this going on throughout the year, because if you've never seen it before, when you get there, it's going to be the first time you see it, and it'll be a smack in the face. So the more tests like this we get, the more battle ready we'll be when the time comes.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about Port Huron this weekend coming right after this commercial break. You're watching the Zydeco Coaches Show presented by Queen Casino. Be back right after this.
The Men's Network started when I went to a computer club meeting in the 7th grade that Brett organized. At that point, I had never met anyone that was as good at computers as Brett was. And by the 8th grade, we figured out that this was something that we could do professionally.
We moved to Baton Rouge to go to LSU, and that's really where our business got planted.
Give Immense a call. Let us show you how IT should be done.
The trust that we offer to our clients is actually, it comes pretty easy for us because we've been doing this a long time, and 90% of the jobs that we get are referrals. That's what we depend on, and we strive to let the customer know that we're going to be here. We will always answer the phone.
For over 90 years, Don's Seafood has been a Louisiana staple, From the finest Gulf catch to the most authentic Cajun recipes, our commitment to quality and tradition is who we are. Enjoy favorites like our gumbo, jacked up shrimp, seafood salad, steak, and of course, our signature seafood platter. Don's is more than just food. We're a celebration of flavor and family. From our team at Don's Seafood, we want to thank you for the last 90 years and cheers to many more together.
Run for Chirac, but he can't bury. Chirac grabs it back, curls away from his check, in behind the net, picks it up on his stick, and he gets the Michigan! Scott Chirac, a highlight reel goal!
Welcome back to 1717 Restaurant in Queens Casino. Andy Poetzinger, Everett Thompson, ET, Port Huron Prowlers coming to town for the first time since last November. They swept the Zydeco back then. Obviously, two very different teams now. What are some things that you're seeing from Port Huron?
Oh, they're a well-traveled team. Coming down here is nothing new to them. They play, I feel like, every single team in the league at least once, sometimes twice. So they're one of those teams that's well-traveled. They're going on the road's nothing new to them. So coming into this weekend, you can't expect them to have road legs or anything like that. So, they've got a good mix of veterans and youth. So, I mean, it's going to be a good contest for us. Like I said earlier, they're a team that's usually in the playoff picture and conversation. So they're another one of those teams that's they're consistent at what they do.
Well, it seems like there's a lot of similarities between the Zydeco and Port Huron in the sense that they both got teams, or excuse me, players who can't produce. They get good goaltending, and the power play numbers are relatively similar as well. Where do you see the Zydeco gaining an edge this weekend?
Um, Hopefully it's one of those things where our systems in the chess match comes superior to theirs. I think if you're good at what you do and you focus on what you do the most, you will get good results. As much as we are worrying about what they're doing, I think it's most to look within here.
Yeah.
We've got a really good group of guys here. We got a good team here. They play hard for each other. So we're just really sticking to what we do best. We played team defense really hard. It's one of the main focuses of our group here is that we do that well. We shot block really well. These guys really sacrifice for each other. So as long as they play for each other and play for the team, it's one of those things where success will come.
Yeah. They are the second most penalized team in the league as well, behind Hudson Valley. Does that affect your planning heading into the weekend at all, or is that just kind of something that's in the back of your mind?
It's something we talk about. It's one of those teams where they're going to come a little unhinged potentially. So you got to play through those segments of the game where things might get a little jabby and a little feisty. It's just one of those things where it's going to happen. It's a hockey game. It's the Federal League. It's one of those things where they're going to stir the pot a little. So we know that coming in. It kind of makes it fun and exciting, I think, for everyone, to be honest. Yeah, I don't think there's anything more exciting than a team that is going to come and
Yeah.
give you a little face wash and whatnot. You're going to be able to give it back to them, and it'll be fun.
They got a foursome that seemed to carry the load offensively for them. It's Lackney, Federley, Johnson, and Graham. Especially since the start of this past month, they've been really pushing the load offensively. How are you guys looking to kind of shut down that grouping, or are you guys more or less just kind of focusing on them as an entire unit, that team as a unit?
Yeah, teams that rely on one line to score have a hard time against our depth, so we're just going to rely on our depth and doing what we do well. If we have to match up against their top line, we will. We've got a shutdown line kind of forming itself right now, which is always good to have in your back pocket. But it's one of those things at the end of the day, our depth is our strength, so we're going to continue to rely on that as much as possible.
I'm curious to know your thoughts on when you look at the standings. There's a pretty large 12-point difference between Watertown in second place, the Prowlers in third. Do you see that there's a little less parity in the Empire division, or is it more that Watertown and Binghamton are, just that good?
Um, I think there might be a little bit of parity loss, but I think it's still super early. You've got to let these things kind of play
Yeah.
out a little bit more to see how things actually are going to structure themselves and where everyone's going to stand. It's so early, and there's also such a difference in how many teams have played games, and so it's just one of those things that's got to work itself out.
We talked about Thanksgiving week, and we'll get into that a lot more next week, or actually not next week, but um, we see Monroe Tuesday, Columbus Wednesday and Friday, and then end back in Monroe on Saturday. How do you guys prep for such a long week like that so the legs aren't, completely gone by the time that the end of the week is there?
This is why they got the training. This is why we go to the trainer every week. It's one of those things where they knew they were going to have a grueling season. This was one of those weeks you kind of circle on the calendar and go, that's going to stink. But at the end of the day, they're playing hockey, and it's a great job to have. So I don't think there'll be any complaints about some more games to be played in a short amount of time.
Awesome. All right. We'll be right back to finish everything out here at the Coaches Show. You're watching the Zydeco Coaches Show live at Queen Casino.
The 2024-25 Broadway at the River Center Theater season is simply the best, featuring 4 big, bold Broadway hits coming to Baton Rouge. The season opens with Shrek the Musical, the Tina Turner Musical, Chicago the Musical, and Pretty Woman the Musical. Get the 4-show package for as little as $235. That's less than $59 per show. Learn more at RaisingCanesRiverCenter.com/Broadway.
Church Funeral Services will handle it all with care and passion. Church Funeral Services.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Savor game day platters and snacks, plus drink specials at 1717 Kitchen and Cocktails. Wall-to-wall, state-of-the-art TVs mean you'll see every touchdown, Hail Mary, and big turnover in crystal clear HD. Place your bets and feel the thrill of every play with our DraftKings Sportsbook. So come out for game day and let our team make you the MVP. The Queen Casino in Baton Rouge, where every moment is a win.
For over 90 years, Don's Seafood has been a Louisiana staple. From the finest Gulf catch to the most authentic Cajun recipes, our commitment to quality and tradition is who we are. Enjoy favorites like our gumbo, jacked up shrimp, seafood salad, steak, and of course, our signature seafood platter. Don's is more than just food. We're a celebration of flavor and family. From our team at Don's Seafood, we want to thank you for the last 90 years and cheers to many more together.
Run for Chirac, but he can't bury. Chirac grabs it back, curls away from his check, in behind the net, picks it up on his stick, and he gets the Michigan! Scott Chirac, a highlight reel goal!
All right, that will just about do it for us here at the Queen Casino. Thank you all here at the 1717 restaurant. We appreciate you guys coming out. Zydeco, I see you. Zydeco. Everybody on YouTube who's watching us as well, thank you all very much, friends, family, and fans. Queen Casino, 1717 restaurant. You guys are the best. Everybody thank your servers. You guys are great. Albert, Ryan, Mark, everyone else behind the scenes who's helped out, making it all possible. We appreciate you guys as well. Thursday, Friday this week, 7:05 puck drop against Port Huron. You can catch it on YouTube and WBRZ or catch us live in person. We will not be here next week, Thanksgiving week. We're on the road. We've got a game against Columbus that week, so don't show up. We won't be here. Favorite Thanksgiving food? What do you got? If you can load your plate, what is it?
Stuffing and turkey itself.
Stuffing and turkey. Yeah. All right. I got you. I got the walnut pie.
Ooh.
That's mine right there. I don't even need the Thanksgiving food. Just give me pie.
Just
Pie
dessert,
all
huh?
day. All right. Andy Poetzinger, Everett Thompson saying thank you. Good night. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Pecan pie, not walnut. Pecan. Thank you. Pecan. I thought of the wrong